The United States of America. Unity and oneness is what we're made of. One nation under God, it's plain to see. We're showing the whole world what a country should be. United we stand in America, hand in hand in America, together as one in a land that we love. United we stand in America.
Good morning, everyone out there. Welcome to Changing Times. It is Wednesday, October the 1st. Can you believe that? And it doesn't feel that way today. It's going to be 87 degrees in Springfield, Missouri. We are live at the Acts Media Group headquarters in Springfield, Missouri. Show number 226. So we've been blessed 226 times, and we have a great show lined up. We apologize for having some technical difficulties. And we did not, I hope you got to hear our opening music. We couldn't hear it, so we couldn't hear it. I'm actually going to take these off, but we could not hear the music, and it always gets me really going because it's such a patriotic, great song that we play. But today we have a very, very special guest, and that person is Alex Bryant. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, I tell you what, you and I've known you for a long time, and you are quite an accomplished person. Alex is a difference maker. We have never had anyone on our show that's not a difference maker, and you are certainly a difference maker.
Well, thank you. That means a lot coming from you.
Well,
yeah, I appreciate it.
I tell you what, I as an old guy, one of the few things I can do well is watch other people and see how they handle situations, and also how they relate with other people, what they do for other people. Those are the really important things, I think. That's what I try to do myself, is try to help other people and introduce people to the Lord, and you do that. You do that all the time. I wrote some things down, and then we're going to get right into the show. But I want people to know about Alex Bryant. I'm going to read some things, and we'll just kind of talk back and forth a little bit. Executive Director of the Alex Bryant Ministries.
Yes,
that's one of the things you're doing. And you have a podcast. I think you and your wife have a podcast. Yep. And it's called The Way You See It.
Yeah, The Way We See It.
Yeah, the way we see it. And so that's pretty good. I'm sure that's a good podcast too. I'm going to start actually listening.
It's a lot of fun.
Podcasts. Yeah. So, and that's the thing for the future is these podcasts, I think. So way to really communicate to people. You graduated from Evangel University.
Yep. It's Evangel College when I was there, but Evangel University now.
And what was the major at the time?
Biblical Studies and Business Management. So I had a double major, and yeah.
Wow, what a preparation for what you're doing now.
It really is.
Did you have that vision when you were studying?
I think God did.
Yeah.
I was called into the ministry when I was younger, but I always had a mind for business, and I was poor. And I always thought, I don't want to be poor, and really kind of didn't feel the call to like being a full-time vocational pastor. And so kind of looking at some of the options of how you can still be effective. I believe in the priesthood of all believers, and Evangel helped me with that. So kind of putting those both together really helps what we're doing now, the business side. I've got the privilege of running an outreach center for Joyce Meyer Ministry and work there, and so that was the first time I was able to use both the business side and the biblical study side. I was the pastor, but also the center director with about 30 team members and stuff. So yeah, God kind of knew.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, good choices, and God is really good. Think about it. You said you were poor. I remember myself when I was in pharmacy school. I didn't have any money at all. So we'd walk, David Sater and I, he was a senator, state rep and senator, and was my best friend in pharmacy school. We didn't have any money, and so, but we could go buy a TV dinner for less than $1. And that was basically our dinner. And on the weekend, we could buy a little steak for $2 and French fries, and we thought we thought we were awesome.
I remember those weekends with tomato soup and popcorn
Yeah,
as a student. Yes.
But you know what? If you make great choices and you know the Lord, He's gonna take care of you. And so we've all been successful. So some other things that I thought was interesting is you guys have a virtual book club.
Yeah.
And I think I want to join the virtual book club because the book that you're doing now, what's the title?
It's called Resilient by John Eldridge. He wrote Wild at Heart. And the reason why I like this book, I read it a few months back, and he goes into the COVID pandemic, how it changed us all, and how I do recognize that people deal with trauma. My wife's got her master's in counseling, but I think that sometimes we over sensationalize trauma and we use that as an excuse. And John Eldridge acknowledges it. He said, this is exactly where you are, but with God's help, we can move forward. And we're not kind of getting back to the new normal. We're getting back to allowing the Holy Spirit to lead and guide us. It's almost like a spiritual reset. And so that's why I wanted to go over this book. I know several people that engage with our ministry that are kind of stuck in trauma, if you will, and still back in COVID. And so I'm kind of one of those that I grew up with my stepdad and my Uncle Ronnie. They're like, suck it up, man up, move forward. It doesn't matter, and not everybody has that mindset that he does. And so I like this book for that very reason.
Yeah. Well, I thought that book, when I read a little bit about that book, I thought, no, this is something that I might like to do too. So that's something that you can do. And then, you've written 2 books. And so now we're kind of getting into some of the meat of what Dr. Mary Byrne. And by the way, I'm Lynn Morris, and you are
Dr. Mary Byrne.
You still are, and you are certainly that. And so we usually introduce ourselves at the beginning of the show, but I was a little mixed up because of a little mechanical difficulty that I certainly wouldn't know how to fix. So thank you to Dennis for at least live on the show. So I hope people are hearing us and things like that. But you've written a couple of books, and I always admire people that write books. I'm still working on my first book, Good and the Bad and the Ugly of Government. It should be out in the next year or so. I'm about done with it.
That's awesome.
And I think it's going to be interesting because I'm going to tell the truth about government. I don't know if very often it's really told the truth about some of the things that go on in government. And I've been involved in school boards, just like you. You're on Nixa School Board. So thank you very much for doing that. And not a lot of pay in that or anything.
Not very much.
And you have a lot of what I call little helpers.
Yeah, there's a lot of those.
A lot of little helpers. Because I'm, as presiding commissioner in Christian County, I have a lot of little helpers.
Yes, you do.
And so we both have that. But no, and I'm also writing a book to help people understand, because none of us understand. So like your son that has leukemia and now he's cancer free, thank the Lord. So until you've experienced it yourself, you don't know. When I lost my foot and my leg, I never knew what a handicapped person went through until I became handicapped. And so we've taken our 107-year-old courthouse building that was not ADA compliant, 0%. And they said, well, you don't, it's grandfathered in. We don't have to do anything. Well, when I became in a wheelchair, I decided, no, I got to see how hard it was to push the door open to get to the bathroom. I saw how hard it was to get on and off the stool because there was no grab bars. I saw things that I had never seen before. I mean, I saw it, but I didn't really comprehend it. Yeah. So we're making a lot of changes in the courthouse now. And because now it's going to benefit so many citizens that need that.
Yeah. I taught regular education teachers about kids with special needs. And because in the state of Missouri, you have to have a 3-hour credit course in kids with disabilities in the regular classroom. And I always opened up saying, you might think that this is a foreign topic, but if you all live long enough, you'll experience all of this. whether it's cognitive decline, vision decline, hearing decline, they're ahead of the curve. But this is all part of your life experience. And it kind of sensitized them, warmed them up to, oh yeah, my grandparents are like this or whatever. Aging is normal, and you have to accept it. It's not something you make fun of or mock. You will be there one day,
Right.
if you are blessed.
If you're blessed.
So, yeah, it's a sensitivity thing.
No.
Walk a mile in their shoes.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right. You're exactly right. Anyway, so you are also a pastor of many churches. You've done several churches and things like that.
There's a lot of also. So it's
Oh,
like,
can't you hold a job?
that's what it is.
But you're substituting right now at a church, aren't you?
I travel and speak. And so,
Travel.
yeah, we're like, so officially, I'm an Assemblies of God minister,
Okay.
and we have pastored at a church, but in 2019, we walked away from that and started our own ministry, Alex Bryant Ministries, which we are Assemblies of God missionaries with a chaplain's endorsement.
Okay.
And so we are on the road 30 to 35 weekends a year.
Together.
We used to be up until, our son with the cancer journey. So that's been my wife's full-time deal for the last few years. I miss her. We used to go
Well,
together.
it's good
Yeah.
to be a team.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we moved back to this area. We were living up in Kansas City, and but my mom and sisters live here, and so when we were out on the road together, they could help with our kids, with our school-age kids, and so. But over the last couple of years, it's pretty much primarily been me, and so I travel and I speak. And about 10 weeks out of the year, I'm in the inner city, St. Louis, Kansas City, Chicago, and Denver, and we partner with inner city gangs, prisoners, people that are kind of coming out of the prison system, and I just share my story. That this is a great country. I'm the product of two teenagers who dropped out of high school. They got pregnant. They had me. I was raised by my aunt, my grandmother. My real dad's been in prison about half my life, but I was able to go to college on a football scholarship, parlayed that into 2 degrees and a master's degree, working on a doctoral degree, only because it's the greatest country ever. And if I can do it, you can do it. And so I give that message to predominantly young Black and brown kids, and just to inspire and motivate them and challenge. And so we're really seeing great success with our resources, our books. And then I go to the suburbs, and I call it the rich white people, because you guys send me there. And so, when I go to the inner cities, I have to raise funds for our ministry. We got about a team of about 3 people to do what we do with our media, with our books, and with our traveling. And so we have to raise funds for that, to go into the inner city and share those messages.
How did you meet your wife?
We've known each other since grade school.
No.
Yeah,
So she's from the
Macomb, Illinois. Yeah, Macomb, Illinois.
Well,
So
that's God's plan too.
it really
It
is.
is.
Yeah.
That's not an accident.
No, it's not. We write about that. We co-authored our first book, and we talk about that, like how that's Let's Start Again. It's a biracial couple's view on race, racial ignorance, and racial insensitivity. And we talk about how God knew from the very beginning of time. He brought us together for this, to speak to this generation. I'm a Black man, big ball, beautiful Black man. Don't forget the beautiful. And then, she's a little bitty old white lady, and we're able to go to whether it's the inner city or the suburbs, country church, rural church, inner city, because we disarm as a couple. We come in, but we've known each other since grade school. We actually grew up when I moved from Florida to Illinois. It was the town that she lived in. Her family was. Her dad was a feed salesman and worked with a lot of they lived in a small suburb, but her dad was the foreman of one of the factories there where a lot of my Black family members worked at. So they all knew Everett. They called him Jake. And so her brother played softball against my stepdad. And so I knew Angie, there. And then my mom and her mom started working together when we were in about 4th grade. She's a year older than me. And we were going to the small Church of God in Christ, the Kojic church in town, small Black church, and she was going to the Assemblies church. And so when her mom and my mom started working together, they started inviting us to go. And so about 8th grade, we started to go, and then she started to chase me. She wanted me. She chased me, and I finally said, I'm tired of running. Fine, I'll date you, and I'll marry you. But no, I remember seeing her. This is back in, the mid 80s. And I remember thinking, this is a funny story. I remember thinking, man, God, that's a godly woman. I would like one just like that and brown. I mean, really, that was kind of what I thought. You know,
Put
just
your order in.
I did, and so and God doesn't care what color we are. Race is just a construct of our society,
Sure.
and because we're all part of the human race, and especially if you're a godly woman. But and so, man, we dated once in high school. Kind of didn't work out. I was a little bit of a bad boy, and not away from the Lord, but just a little bit of a bad boy. And then when I went to Evangel, I came here in Springfield. She stayed back in Macomb and went to university there. I was actually engaged to another guy.
No kidding.
Yeah, and they broke up in the summer of '92, and I came home, and it was just different. It was like that, there was something there that wasn't there before. And we just hung out pretty much every day in the summer of '92 and started dating. I went back to school and got married in '95.
So she didn't attend Evangel.
No, she went to the seminary there, AGTS, the Simmons God Theological Seminary. So she got her undergrad from Western Illinois University in communications, and then she came to the seminary here in town to get her master's in counseling.
Isn't that awesome? You both have a communications background or business communications and a love for God's presence in your life and guidance.
Yeah.
It is true that this is a country of opportunity, but the way I look at it is the way the Constitution is written, it gives God the greatest space to be in our lives.
Amen. Yeah.
And that's probably the blessing that isn't talked about enough, is that the mobility we have is the opportunity for God to act.
Yeah. We both knew we were called into the ministry.
Yeah.
And God brought us together for such a time as this.
Amen.
And, both of us being a part of, I went to Evangel. She was at the Simmons of God Theological Seminary. I eventually went there. But that was the same ethos, that how to integrate your faith with your learning.
They're both AGTs.
Yeah, they're both the Simmons of God, and it's all about God has a plan. And no matter if you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, a stay-at-home mom, a worship leader, whatever, we're all supposed to figure out where we fit in His plan. It's about Him. It's not about us. Mm-hmm. So they help us discover our learning, our what our ethos is, what our vocation should be, so that we can be used in service.
And what's interesting about that is my daughter particularly has this, you might say a resistance saying, but it's almost like you view God as a bully because He makes you do something. And I'm like, no, that's where you resonate the best. Yeah. That's what you were made for. Right. And you will be happiest if you are resonating and, all of those harmonies.
That's one thing I love about a Christian education, whether it's at Evangel or any of our Christian schools, because we are all discovered with a purpose. Yes. And they help us understand it's not about us. It's about God. We have to figure out where we fit into His purpose. Now, He gives us each giftings, skills, and abilities, and university is supposed to help us discover those with our mind and our heart, and to meld those together so that we can fit into His purpose and plan for His, because he gave us the Great Commission to go and preach the gospel to all people of all nations. It's not about us just making money. My business degree is not about me going and getting rich. Sometimes God blesses people with the ability to create wealth so they can be ministers of supply. They can create wealth and they can give. But we're all supposed to figure out where we fit into God's plan. He's not bullying us. It's an honor and a privilege to figure out how we can be used by the King.
And it is, again, it's where you will be the happiest.
Yeah.
And that's what He wants for you. So it's surrender. Just surrender. It'll be fine.
So, Alex, one of the things I want to quickly talk about is you and I, and I know Dr. Mary too, we believe that, and we've talked about this a little bit, that pastors, it's not just about teaching the Bible and preaching the Bible every Sunday, Wednesday night, or whatever. The ministers today, because of everything that's going on, more than ever needs to be involved in politics. Yeah. They need to tell their congregation what's really going on and relate that to the Bible.
Current events.
Yeah, current events is extremely important. We're going to talk about a current event right after this topic, because I want to hear from you. What do you think about ministers that are talking about?
Yeah, I mean, that's my tribe. I challenge my tribe. I'm one of them. I'm a minister. I've been a Simmons of God minister since about 2001. And I really didn't have that awakening. I started to work for Joyce Meyer Ministry I ran the Dream Center with her, and I remember one time being out golfing with her husband, Big Dave, and he started to ask me how I feel and think about America, what I read, and I love to read. I've always been a reader. And he's like, "Hey, I'm going to give you some books." He started to give me, Barton and Oscar Ennis and these books about America. This is probably back in 2013 or 14, and some of these books were just about how our founding fathers were Christian men, ministers who were a part of leading and influencing society and culture. And if you watch Joyce Meyer Ministry, you know her husband, Big Dave, he's all about America. You got to be engaged. And so from that, I started to read some of those books. And then in 2000, and all along, I just thought, like most pastors, I believe, just think, I'm just going to give them Jesus. It's my job just to preach the Bible, stay out of that stuff. Because we believe the lie of, separation of church and state, or here's the big lie we believe: don't talk about politics or religion, right? That's what culture believes, right? The devil's been giving us that platitude for centuries, or decades at least, and it's working. But so in 2018, I went to a conference called the American Renewal Project. My wife and I did, and my eyes were open. I mean, it was literally like a veil.
Who sponsored that?
Who was it? I knew you were going to ask me. It's
American Renewal.
I think. I don't remember who sponsors that. I need to remember.
It wasn't Barton in Texas?
He was a part of it, but no, they were traveling around. The one that we went to was in Kansas City.
Okay.
And I know the bot. They were part of sponsoring it because they gave
radio.
About radio. We went for free to Kansas City. They take you up there. You spend 2 nights. You go to this conference, and but it was I'm listening to all these pastors who are like, "Hey, I was there too." And when you read the scriptures, you see that pastors and ministers, prophets, they're influencing culture. And it's really like the whole question was, how are we going to influence culture if we're staying away from one of the most powerful and influential parts of our society? You talk about sports, education, business, economics, and politics. We stay out of politics. Pastors stay out of politics. And so that just opened my eyes. The Black Robe Brigade,
which is why government gets to be so evil.
It is, because the good people have done nothing. We have withdrawn.
Yes.
And we just say things like we pray. And so now we're reactive. You see now how, especially over these last few years, how we don't want to engage. We don't want to be leaders and influencing in culture and society. Or even think about this. Pastors are preaching to their parishioners. We're telling them, oh yeah, go and be a business leader for the Lord. And yeah, you need to make sure that your kids are educated in the way of the Lord, or even economics, or even sports. But we don't talk about, some of you guys should go and be on the school board. Some of you should be, run for city council. Some of you should be the mayor. Pastors should be speaking to, inspiring, motivating, encouraging their parishioners to go and fulfill those government agency offices.
And that's how it was in the beginning.
It used to be like that, but I didn't know that until I went to this conference and started.
And you walk the walk. You are on the school board.
It inspired me, and I mean, my eyes were open, and I saw how, and there's a cost to it because I am a US missionary. We raise support. There's some of my friends who are like, can't have you in my church. You're too political, and I'm like, okay. So for me, God's given me a grace to not be mad at them. I still love them. Yeah. I pray that they have their awakening. They haven't had it yet. And now you've seen with COVID, I hear so many pastors say, I didn't go into politics. Politics came to me.
Yes.
It's not going to slow down. If you read Revelation, you see how the end's going to happen. One world government, one world currency. That stuff is going to happen because of politics. So we can either start to influence now, or we're going to be influenced. So
we all saw, the world saw that how the government shut down churches during COVID. We couldn't go to churches.
Left bars open. Everything.
Left everything else open, but churches couldn't. You couldn't go and pray and learn about God. And then also, when churches started to have it outside in parking lots, they forbid that too. So I really appreciate church pastors, because you guys have the largest audience every week. There's not other meetings that have those type of crowds, and so it's so important what they say and what they do.
Yeah.
And so that's really good. Let's talk real quick about a very current event. The government shut down this morning at midnight, and the record is 35 days the government shut down. For a lot of people are going to say, yeah, let's shut them down And because I sometimes we wonder what the government really does. I'm always thinking I'm a conservative Christian person, and so I lean on the conservative side. However, I'm blaming everybody. I'm just thinking about both parties, about trillions of dollars in debt and all of the problems we have in this country. And we've had Republicans and we've had Democrats, and they both parties seem to fail the people. So one thing I'd like for everyone to hear today, because we've got people in all 50 states and around the world listening in, is I believe, only I believe, and maybe you all believe too, I don't think Congress should get paid right now. About 3 million people that work for the government aren't going to get paid during this time. And maybe some of them maybe don't deserve to get paid either. But I don't know that. I'm not their judge. But what I do believe is that these guys that helped create the problem over years, not just now, but over years, maybe they shouldn't get paid when they're not working either. Maybe they should be solving the problem, and we'll pay them for solving the problem. What do you guys think? I mean, you think it's right for these guys to get paid?
No, I think that's a good plan. I'm different on the government shutdown, and just over the last few years when I was the host of Wake Up Springfield, I think they're holding us hostage. All of us are, because the reality is that they play their games.
Sure.
If Congress didn't get paid, I think they're going to be fined for 30 days. They're not living paycheck to paycheck. I feel for the
true.
TSA officers,
That's true.
the military. But when you dive into government shutdown, I'm just tired as an American citizen of them continuing with these continual resolutions, the CRs, continuing to spend trillions upon trillions. When Trump tried to use Elon Musk and to implement Doge to cut some of these things back, they got pushed back left and right. We are spending way too much. And I say this like in our family. We have 5 kids. And, my daughter plays travel basketball. We're at a point where we can have her do that. My oldest son couldn't. We couldn't at the time. And it's like, well, you want braces? You want travel basketball? Sometimes you got to make some tough choices.
Right.
And you got to live within your means. You got to live within a budget. We're not doing that. And so a government shutdown sometimes, although it is tough, I know a family, a young girl who was in our college ministry. Her husband is in the military. They're not going to get paid, and they realize that. I know a TSA agent. I know people that are government contractors in D.C. who aren't going to get paid. And I hate that for them. But I'm tired of our government holding us hostage. I'm tired of the Democrats and the Republicans playing these games. I do think maybe all of them shouldn't get paid, either one for all, but we have to change things. And I think this is going to be unintended consequences. I think the Democrats are going to give Trump the opportunity to go in and say, okay, well, yeah, we're shutting it down and we don't need your jobs. Don't return. And some people are going to lose jobs. And that's an unfortunate thing too, but it's too much bloat out there. So
yeah, and gamesmanship,
there's a lot of that.
rather than governance has been the order of the day since the first Congress, right? So this is not new.
No, it's been going on for.
But my motto is everything you need to know about politics you learn in middle school. Okay.
If you pay attention, I don't know that I did. But that's good.
Well,
you need to know where the cliques are, who's in charge of the cliques, and who's mad at who, and navigate through that system. It's really about relationship. So you can write the rules, Robert's Rules of Order, or even statute, but if the public is not in there doing the checks and balances from the public's perspective, then they get away with doing things behind our back, right? Printing money ad infinitum is not a good idea. It's not a plan. It's a recipe for self-destruction.
Yeah.
And so, something has to stop. I think, this is something that Schumer and company brought on themselves.
They did.
And all they wanted was a clean resolution. Just let's keep this open and we'll continue our discussions. And they said, no, we're going to use this as a bargaining chip.
Yeah.
And they're going to lose the bargain.
They're going to lose it. They're going to lose it in the court of public opinion as well.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I want to make sure the audience knows, Alex, I've never said this to you before, but I want to say this now. I've thought about this a long time. Eric Burleson was a friend of ours. I served with him. And he and I agreed on a lot of things. He and I did not agree on the helmets when he finally got his helmet bill passed by an amendment. He never could pass it. I helped him get it beat 7 times on the floor, debated him, because I feel like that you need to wear a helmet if you're going to ride a motorcycle. Since that time, we've had a lot more deaths and brain injuries, head injuries in the Southwest Missouri area since that bill's finally got passed. But that being said, he's a good U.S. Congressman. But folks, this gentleman ran for U.S. Congress too, and there were several people that ran. And you did a great race. You ran a good race, and he is the type of person. He actually is the type of person in this country, not just in Missouri, but in this country, that we actually need to have in leadership. Okay, because this is why. It's not just about politics. It's about what kind of person you are. And if you have a heart for Christ, that's important today. Okay? You have to have a brain, and he's got communication skills, he's got business skills, he's got church running skills, he's got all those things. He's the type of person that you need to watch out for in this country that's running for office. Okay? I don't know if you're ever going to run again for, you ran for school board and you won that. Very first thing I did was school board, and then I did state rep, and then I've done county work. But, I lost my very first race. I won 17 in a row. So you can win after you lose. You're not a loser. You are a winner.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
If I had you in my corner, maybe I would have won.
and you, this is the type of person that this country needs right now. Okay. It really is. Okay. Just forget all the politics. This is the type of person that we need. And that's why I was proud to have you on the show. Let's talk about your books. Your very first book, what was it?
It's Let's Start Again. It's a biracial couple's view on race, racial ignorance, and racial insensitivity. So that book came from a video that my wife and I made. So we were, I pastored in St. Louis during Ferguson, Mike Brown, Hands Up, Don't Shoot.
Oh, okay.
And that just didn't sit well with me. I was one of those pastors that was on the streets trying to keep the peace between the people and the police during those 11 days of rioting. So that was in 2012 or 14. So then you fast forward to 2016. We're now pastoring in Kansas City, and 5 police officers were shot and killed in Dallas by a black man who said that he was tired of police killing unarmed black people. And we have police officers in our family. I got several cousins who are police officers, a couple of uncles who were one uncle, Bill Thorpe, who was the first on the force in Macomb, Illinois. My uncle Oliver Cox in Fort Pierce, Florida. I got a second cousin now who was a sheriff's deputy. So we love police in our family. And so we're definitely not for police getting killed. Now, as a black man, do I think that we need to evaluate how police is done in some communities? Yeah, but I want to have a conversation about it. Don't want to see anyone killed. And so when those police officers were killed in June of 2016, my family made a video, and it was said, hey, it's not black versus white. It's not the people versus the police. It's dark versus light. And we believe that Satan has been using the tool of racism to try to distract us, to divide us, to keep us from coming together and talking. And so that video on Facebook had about 50 million views, and that's what launched our ministry. That's what we turned that into this book. So we expanded it, and that's our message. It's out of 1 John 1, 5-7. We know that God is light. In him there's no darkness at all. So if we claim to be in the light, we don't have fellowship with one another, then we lie, because the blood of Jesus purifies us from all sin and causes us to have fellowship with one another. And we believe that as Christians, if we are having fellowship with Christ, we're not going to fall for the sin of racism. We're supposed to be the ones that are leading in unity and forgiveness and love and peace. So that's that message, that book that my wife and I wrote together.
Well, that's a great book, and that's a very important message. So that leads me up to ask you this. Mary and I were talking about Charlie Kirk, and I know you were very fond of Charlie Kirk and what he's doing with young people. I know last night, They had over 6,000 people.
6,500 Utah
Yeah,
State.
so Utah State, that's their largest crowd they've had for events like that. So they're continuing to grow. It's not going to go
Yeah.
away. But you as a black person, I mean, what we've heard the critics say all the time, some pretty hateful things about Charlie Kirk, and they say he's a racist. Did you ever feel like that Charlie Kirk
No,
was
I mean,
preaching anything that was a racist?
the whole racism, the term has been weaponized in our culture. We talk about that in our
Yeah,
book.
I saw.
We say that we need to redefine the terms. Not everything is racist. Some things are racist. And that's a very small, I think, part of our country. I travel in our country. I'm all over. I'm in the rules or whatever. If somebody was to walk in here right now and say something racial towards me, I probably wouldn't even have to say anything because I imagine you guys would be all over them. I bet Dr. Byrne, you'd probably be giving them support, and I wouldn't have to say anything because our country's not a racist country. Now again, there are some knuckleheads that still have that ideology, but not most of us. But we say that some things are racially ignorant and then some things are racially insensitive. We talk about that in the book. We say we need to redefine it. Like, so for example, there's a lot of, when we go and we have these seminars, there's a lot of white people who would say, oh, my grandmother or my grandfather probably was a little bit racially ignorant or racially insensitive.
Yeah.
And not saying it in a rude way.
Right.
My wife, she shares stories in her book, like, her great grandfather owned slaves. And so, her grandmother, when she was starting to date a black guy, her family's going, what's Grandma Ada going to say about Angie dating a black guy? She was, ignorant to the fact that, it's not about the skin, it's about what's in the heart. And so we say if they're racially ignorant, you need to educate people. If they're insensitive, we need to come together as a group and challenge that. So when I look at some of the things that like Charlie Kirk was saying, this is why it was so inflammatory, if you will. He wasn't racist. He was saying things to the black community that Thomas Sowell has been saying for years, that Larry Elder has been preaching. And he's taking those learnings, and Charlie Kirk had the guts to say it to the black community. Hey, get married before you start to have kids. You're having babies out of wedlock, and it's hurting you, and it's keeping you from there. Marriage is between a man and a woman. Don't abort your babies, black community. He's saying these things that was tough for the black community to hear from a white person. And it's like, and I've been having so many conversations with the black community, and I'm saying, if our black leaders were telling us these things, Charlie Kirk wouldn't have had to, but we're not listening. And so, but I've liked Charlie Kirk's message for a while. In fact, back in 2019, I sent my two older boys. He did this thing called the Black Leadership Summit. And him and Candace Owens, Officer Brandon Tatum, they brought 300 black youth to Washington, D.C. for free. Got to go to the White House. Got to, be a part of that to encourage them to engage in the political process. My two older boys went on that. I've loved the message that Charlie Kirk has been sending for a while. My son Trey was a huge Charlie Kirk fan. My son Trey, if you on my campaign, he was one of my campaign leaders. He's in politics right now. He's going to law school at Mizzou. He wants to get into politics and stuff. And so, no, Charlie Kirk wasn't a racist. He didn't even say things that were racially ignorant. The black community felt they were racially insensitive, but we have to deal with that. And we have to wrestle with that. It doesn't make him a racist at all. So.
Yeah, I think what has always befuddled me is Margaret Sanger knew to go to the black pastors and engage them to engage their congregations and say abortion was okay.
Yeah.
When actually, whether you're of any skin color, God is your creator.
Yeah.
You don't mess with his creation. You have to consider how much he loves all of it, and protect that. So I don't know why they fell for it.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you some, and I love history. I'm a student of history.
Good.
When you go back into that whole thing, it was a mixture of economics and science. So at the time, they didn't believe the technology didn't show and believe that a baby, a fetus, an embryo was a human. And so They use it from economics. You don't need more of your own black and brown people having more kids that they can't support. Because remember, Lyndon Baines Johnson at the same time comes up with the Great Society Act in the 50s and 60s, expanded HUD and government housing and WIC and all those things. And so when it went to the black community with the black pastors and leaders, you see all these young black moms having babies out of wedlock. It's a matter of, nope, you don't have that child now, you're not ready. So that's how they sold it to the black community at the time. It really probably wasn't until the 80s and the 90s when the technology started to show this is really a baby. And then even now, they're still in the black church. They don't want to accept that. They kind of, deny it, even though you can get a 4D ultrasound that has your baby waving at you, but they still now want to fall for the platitude. Well, I'm not for abortion, but I'm pro-choice. A woman should choose what she. So we're just still believing the lie. That's all that it was.
Yeah.
And a lot of black people know the history of Margaret Sanger, Planned Parenthood. How she was a eugenics who wanted to kill black babies, and you put these abortion clinics in the black neighborhoods to extinguish black babies.
She wrote a book wanting to create the American race, just like Hitler wanted the Aryan race. And
Hitler followed her teachings.
She had a standard of what an American race would look like.
Okay.
And the solution, this came from England, the solution was eugenics.
I engaged in the black community, and even today, there's people in the black community that don't know that. We're talking educated people that don't know.
Well, listen, I hope you're able to fast track this message before November 2026, because Amendment 3 is going to come up on the ballot again. It was St. Louis and Kansas City that got that thing passed by just this much.
Yeah.
And if we can tip that scale and say, no, it's really about God loves you and God loves that people.
The churches engaged too late. My son Michael was on staff at a church in Ohio from 23, 24, and they had this on their amendment there. And I watched it happen when I was on the radio. I'm like, guys, if we're not careful, what happened in Ohio is going to happen here, and it did. It hurt me. Yeah. And my son, the church there, Pastor Chris Gross, he was a part of in Columbus, Ohio. He was a part of a team affiliation that was trying to engage black pastors, and they came on too late. Yeah, the black pastors came on too late. Same here in Missouri. And then see, the devil is tricky, and the devil is sneaky and crafty, and he does a great job of making everything about race. And unfortunately, with black people, when we hear the word race, it's like we become like little kittens playing with a ball of yarn in the middle of the floor. Race what? Where? And we lose all of our rationalities, all of our sense of spirituality, our minds, because we're just, they're racist. So then, and that's what's happening now with this abortion fight. So I posted, because there was a map that someone put after Amendment 3 passed here in Missouri, that the purple was from St. Louis and Kansas City. And I posted that on my Facebook, and I said, it's sad that the people that voted to kill life are the ones, in the black community, and people hated that. It's not just us. More white people are having abortions. And
so I'm like, you're not shy.
You can't be.
And that's the way you're supposed to be.
That's
the way you're supposed to be.
Challenging.
Hey, so we're going to run out of time. We got about 5 minutes left. So your second book is called Man Up, A Guide to Godly Masculinity. So why'd you write that book? I mean, I know that we need that. Definitely man up. Men out there, you need to man up.
And I heard Charlie say the same thing. Stop being a boy.
Man up. Yeah. So I primarily wrote that book a little bit to tell my story, but how I'm engaging in my kids' life. I never wanted to be a baby daddy, so I knew that and I'm not trying to be crass, but my whole thought, if I didn't want to be a baby's dad, then I'd keep it in my pants. I wasn't going out and having sex with girls, before, I was married. Now, I wasn't a virgin, unfortunately. But when I had that awakening, I stopped having, sexual engagement until I got married. So it's about a 13-year period. But so I tell people, learn from my mistakes, learn from other people's mistakes. You don't. And so I wrote this book because I saw how politically, economically, socially, black fathers were listening to the wrong message. Yeah. And I thought it was just going to be for the black community, but this book is getting such great feedback from everyone, black, white, brown, it doesn't matter. Socioeconomic doesn't matter. So the whole principle comes from when King David was about to die, he said to his son Solomon in 1 Kings chapter 3, I'm about to die, so I want you to be strong. And he said, observe the Lord's commands. That means know the Bible. And then he says, be faithful. That means walk in obedience to it. Endure, and then you prosper. So I say there's 4 things we need to do if we want to man up, if we want to prosper. We got to be strong, emotionally, physically, spiritually, intellectually. We got to be observant to God's word. We have to read the Bible on a daily basis. That's the thing that changes our minds. We're renewed, we're transformed by the renewing of our minds. And then we got to be obedient. That means be faithful to walking it out. We live in Missouri. We're the show me state, right? Don't just tell me, show me. So we got to be faithful. And then we got to endure. When the hardships come, I share some stories about my son Mason going through his cancer journey. And that was one of the toughest fights for me ever. And I had to be strong for my family. I had to endure. I had to have strength. And then you do those 4 things, then you prosper. And so that's why I wrote that book.
I'll tell you what, that is an awesome book. So we're going to run out of time, but next week I'm going to try to give these 2 books away. I'm going to buy these books. I'm going to give them away. We'll have a way for you to enter next week, so you got to watch next week. I want to read something, too, I just posted. I think this really goes well with Man Up, okay? Home improvement is when men take their families to church. That's part of manning up, is be responsible and know that you got to take your kids to church. When I was growing up, unfortunately for my brother and I, my dad didn't go to church. And my mom took us to church. Every Sunday, we went to Sunday school and church. Thank goodness I had a mom that did that. But today, more than ever, we need men to man up and be the leader of the family. And just like you and your wife is a team. And my wife and I am a team. But somebody's going to have to be the leader. Okay? So next week we're going to start at 8:30. We're not going to start at 9 o'clock. We have to do that because we have Bill Federer. He is probably the #1 historian in this country, maybe in the world. He understands government history. He understands Christian history. He is a walking, talking encyclopedia. He never looks at notes. You see, I have notes. I'm not like Bill Federer, but he is a genuine man that's going around Missouri starting, I think, around October 17th.
Well, he'll be here
But
in
he's going to be here
Springfield on the 18th.
on the 18th at 9 a.m. At
9:30.
9:30 at the
Library Center
Library Center on South Campbell.
in Springfield.
And so in Springfield, Missouri. But he's going to be around the area. He's going several places in Missouri. He's doing 2 or 3 a day,
Yes.
from early morning to afternoon to night. He's a very busy man, but he's got a message to tell. I would highly recommend you go and we really appreciate the sponsors helping. That's one of your groups, right?
That is. Conservative America's Club is co-hosting Bill, organized by Liberty Links, Bev Alin's group.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Orion Center, you had met Bill Munhausen. He's also helping.
Yeah, and Bill Munhausen is a great guy, radio guy, and stuff like that. And he's just recently got involved in Acts Ministry, and so I think I'll try to be there too. If you can't be there, are they zooming that meeting?
No.
No. Okay.
No, you should just check the website for Liberty Links or on the Conservative Americans Club. You'll see the entire tour.
Okay.
And if you miss us here in Springfield, check out one of the other presentations he's doing.
Okay. Perfect. So is it sold out already, or is it still got some
Well, we
space?
have an auditorium for 100 seats. We are not selling tickets. It is first come, first served.
Get there early for Bill Federer.
Get there. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, very good. I can't buy any more books. I think I have 12 or 13 books of Bill Federer's. And so my wife has already told me if I go, since we downsized our house, she said, no, Lynn, you don't need to buy any.
You can always have more books.
I like books. So anyway, hey, everybody have a blessed rest of the week. We'll be back next Wednesday. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Everybody have a great day.